Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Strategic Jordan, and we got another marathon of Fallout Equestria. Now, I'm not sure how many videos this marathon will be. Telling you outright, K-Cat. I don't know how many this will be, but I will at least finish the chapter. And looking at the time on the chapter, that'll be at least 3, maybe 4 videos. So at least 3 to 4. I'll be recording 2 today. Maybe another 2 tomorrow. So, yeah. And I'll be releasing 1 a day. So this first video will go up today. After I finish recording both of them, I'll edit this one and post it. The next one will come up tomorrow, and so on. It'll be 1 a day. And there'll be at least 3 or 4, because I'm at least finishing this chapter. Tell you that all outright. Now, why haven't I been on? Here a second. I got me an Xbox One. Wait, oh, yeah, okay, there, yeah, okay. And I got a shit ton of games for it. I need to edit this shit. Get back into position. Okay. Oh god, this first video is just going to be technical difficulties. You know, The Witcher 3, Dead Rising 3, just all those fucking games. And I had to play them. Well, anyways... God, I don't think I've actually beaten any of them either. But, you know, that took my time. And I'm sorry for that. Anyways, let's get watching. Apparently, KK, you said this is one of your favorite chapters, so this should be good.
Rage. Burning, explosive rage.
Blood for the Blood God!
And the moment I realized that the Steel Rangers had invaded my home, were killing the ponies inside, I saw red like I had never had before. My nerves were hot. Electric. I wanted to strike out. To slaughter those fuckers. To rip them apart from the inside out.
Take their skulls and make a throne!
Under my hooves. But my enemies, the murderers who were defiling my home, were not here. It would be hours, even at Calamity's best speed, before we could make it to Stable 2. I wanted to hurt some pony, now. My whole body and mind and soul screamed for justice and retribution.
Also, I just realized the title of this chapter is called The Hour of the Wolf. I love that saying. You know, the Hour of the... It's such a cool fucking saying. And, you better live up to it, K-Cat.
And if I couldn't have that, at least some pony to buck. But the only ponies around were my friends. So I stood there and raged in silence. And they were wise not to interfere. "Do you think I wanted this?" Steelhoof snapped, pacing through the interior of the Sky Bandit. "Stable 2 was home to Applejack's family. If anyone in the Apple family still lives, they live in there." "I ain't saying you wanted this," Calamity shot back. "And I ain't saying you didn't go do your damn best to stop it. I'm just saying your best weren't good enough." The rust-colored Pegasus was pouring on the speed, despite being at the point of exhaustion. "And now, it's my turn." Zenith watched the argument, for once not being the focus of the shouting. She turned to Velvet Remedy, eyes large. "This is your home, you and the little one. Why did the Steel Rangers attack it?" Velvet Remedy shook her head. Each blink sent fresh tears down her charcoal cheeks. The wind whipped at her color-streaked white mane. "Resources. Nothing more. All they see is a functional stable. In the very least, the water talisman is priceless. The apple orchard nearly so." She closed her eyes, shuddering with a soft sob. At most, they wanted it as a base. My rage was beginning to ebb, the fire and fury unable to maintain itself without a direction to strike. I could feel numbness, sorrow and horror lurking behind it, ready to overwhelm me once the inferno of anger burnt itself out. "You can't just prance in and start killing rangers," Steelhoof stomped.
Yeah, they fucking can.
"I don't see why not. As far as I can see, they're nothing more than a gang of high-tech raiders preying on the innocent." Calamity kicked at his battle saddle, changing the ammo. "Ponies like that need to die. And I aim to kill 'em. It's my policy." Steelhoof's turned to Velvet Remedy. "You talk to him." "And say what?" Velvet's voice was hard as steel. Steelhooves grunted. That is suicide for a start. He looked at us. Do you ponies really think you can take on a few squads worth of knights and paladins in magical armor? The ghoul's words hit home. The size of this was too much. Who knew how many Steel Rangers were down there, each with weapons and armor and combat experience far in excess of our own?
Get the fucking plasma cannon!
How was I going to save Stable 2? How could I fight that?
No, you didn't take the AA gun
each and every
either.
pony I had grown up with. My teachers, my peers, each pony at my first and only slumber party. I felt myself being crushed under the weight of this responsibility. I couldn't breathe. Y'all gonna be surprised just what we can do. The armor-encased ghoul rounded on the Pegasus. I'm on your side here. Are you? I asked, finally breaking my silence. The others all turned a collective gaze on Steelhooves. The Steel Ranger, the eternally obedient soldier buck, had been backed into a corner, forced between his loyalty to us and his oath to them. If that was all it was, then I knew we would lose. But I had seen into his head, into his memories. Steelhooves' oath wasn't to the Ministry of Wartime Technology. It was to her, Applejack. And when it had come to defending her, there had never been a moral he had considered sacred enough to let it stand in his way. If that still held true, then we stood a chance. Steelhooves didn't answer. That was not a good sign. But such a decision was hard enough without being further forced. I didn't dare push him. I needed him. I needed all of them. Well, that's just perfect, Calamity groused. Can you at least promise not to shoot us in the back when you make up your mind? I wanted to tell the Pegasus to shut up. I knew Calamity had a right to say that, and right now, he was the one going beyond the pale just to get us there. But if I had any chance of not letting Stable 2 down, not letting every pony I had ever known die, I needed my friends to pull together. We needed to be strong. Instead, I was drowning. And all about me, they were splintering apart under the tension. Velvet Remedy nickered deprecatingly. Well, if we're making promises, maybe Little Pip can promise that, if we win, she won't adopt any of them. I stumbled, feeling sucker-punched even as I was fighting to breathe.
That's mean.
Oh, come on, Little Pip, Velvet said, rolling her eyes.
Mean.
It is not past my notice that you have a habit of collecting ponies, and now zebras, who have nearly killed you. She shook her mane. I'll admit, sometimes I wonder if there isn't a part of you that isn't doing it to get back at me. What? What the hell? Well, aside from just being the one who patches you up every time you get yourself hurt, I'm also the one who is at least a little responsible for you getting trapped out here to begin with, Velvet pointed out. Her normally beautiful voice sounded frayed. I could tell this was the return of nasty, bitchy Remedy who dealt with the horrors around her by thinking poorly of her friends. I had really hoped we'd left this Remedy behind. But there she was, buried under the surface, just waiting for enough stress on the fault lines of Velvet's personality to set her free. Are you sure there isn't a part of you that isn't trying to punish me by surrounding us with reminders of all the times you've nearly died out here? Whoa, Nelly. Calamity looked back. Is that how you think of me? Oh, goddesses. Please, I don't know if I can do this even with you. I can't do this without you. Stop it. All of you. I stomped with all hooves, shaking. We can't tear apart now. Our home. My home. They need us. What good are we to them if we're already bleeding to death when we get there? Bits and shrews, Calamity exclaimed. You're right, Little Pip. I'm sorry. As am I, Velvet Remedy said. The good Velvet was, at least for now, back again. I don't know what came over me. I guess I'm just not dealing with this well.
Stress.
So,
calm down, you'll be fine.
Inquired, his voice calm as if the arguments had never happened. Do you have a plan? I felt the wind blow through my coat and mane, ruffling my utility barding under saddle packs and armor plating. I looked at each of them, suddenly feeling very small. My eyes fell to Velvet. This can't just be my decision. Velvet, this was your home too. My eyes pleaded with her. Silently, I begged her to help me. Please, Velvet, please don't let this be all on me. This is home. These are our ponies. I can't have whether they live or die be all on me. I just can't. Velvet returned the gaze. In her teary eyes I saw a kindness that told me she understood, and that she would take as much of this burden from me as she could. Velvet turned to the others. Steelhooves is right. I doubt we have the firepower to take on the Steel Rangers. And even if we do,
You need to
we
get a
couldn't
fat
hope to
man.
do so without losses.
Fat mayor?
So,
I don't know.
we must look for an avenue of diplomacy first. I nodded, weepingly thankful. Suddenly, I could breathe again. There was an odd orange glow on the horizon, like an angry dawn was approaching. But the glow was from the wrong direction, and there were many hours before the first hints of daylight. The sun and moon had gone wild, raising and setting by their own whims, but even those whims seemed to have a clockwork precision. What are we looking at? Fires, Calamity answered. That out there's the Everfree Forest. Looks like Red Eye's got the whole backside ablaze. Zenith queried. Do you think Red Eye's troops might be near Stable 2? Nah, not a chance, Calamity answered.
Damn, that was my
Those fires
plan.
over a day away. Wouldn't make no sense for him to be anywhere near Ponyville. I leaned against Velvet Remedy, using her soft body for physical support, drinking in the scent of her to calm myself. I was still trembling, trying to steady myself, fighting off waves of alternating rage and bleak sorrow. The stress was winding me up until I felt I would explode, or shatter. Velvet Remedy was allowing herself the distraction of staring at the firelit cloud cover in the distance. I remember when I first left Stable 2. The cloud cover had breaks in it. I could see real sunlight. It was the most beautiful, warming thing. More beautiful than anything I'd ever experienced in my life. I thought, there is something as wonderful as this out there. Then the outside can't be that bad. She chuckled sadly. Haven't seen the sun like that again. Sometimes, I wonder if that isn't why this world feels so dark and hopeless. I remembered a similar break in the clouds, pouring the soft light of Luna's moon down upon Monterey Jack and me as we faced off on the Ponyville Bridge. It seemed like a lifetime ago. Yep.
I'm trying to come
Clamor
up with
replied,
like a plan to
missing
do
the heart
this.
and soul of Velvet's
Like
comment.
all I could think of is A, you should have took little Gilda for the fucking AA gun. B, you should have gone and got the plasma cannon back from your outpost home base that you haven't gone back to. God damn. What's the point of having a stronghold if you never use it?
The Everfree Force don't work properly. Pegasus have always had a tough time keeping the cloud cover over that place. It's like the clouds want to move, all on their own. Cloud curtain in the areas right up against it can get mighty patchworky sometimes. Steelhooves was staring in the other direction, his visor gazing out into the darkness. Finally, he admitted with a low rumble, I don't understand why Elder Blueberry Saber is doing this. I felt Velvet Remedy had covered that question fairly well earlier. Steelhooves let out a breath. This is far outside her territory. Elder Blueberry Saber is the elder for the Philadelphia contingent of the Steel Rangers. Stable 2 technically falls under the purview of my elder and the Manhattan contingent. Oh. They can't keep Philadelphia, I offered, feeling a fresh surge of fury as my thoughts touched on what must be happening every minute now. Red Eye keeps growing stronger. The Steel Rangers' position there is stagnant, if not weakening. I think Velvet's right about them needing a new base. The ghoul nodded inside his armor. Still, it should fall to Elder Cottage Cheese to take Stable 2. For him not to be there would be a considerable divergence from protocol, and to have two elders in the same place would be strategically unwise. In front, Calamity whinnied, letting all legs hang in the air and sticking out his tongue with an expression of disgust. Seriously now, your commanding officer's name is Cottage Cheese? Did his folks hate him or something? Steelhooves chuckled despite our dark situation. He does prefer to simply be called Cottage. I like cottage cheese, I said in a very small voice. Hey, maybe your cottage cheese elder's pulling the same thing on Blueberry Saber that she pulled on Little Pip, Calamity suggested. Sending her into that situation that he feels is a giant death trap. After all, don't he believe a bunch of rubbish about the Ministry of Awesome having black ops stables and nonsense like that? Well, maybe not complete nonsense, I muttered under my breath. What you mean by that, Little Pip? Crap. Calamity heard me. Well, I mean that I saw Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie setting up Zecora to be a double agent for Equestria. Rainbow Dash said Zecora trained under her Ministry of Awesome's best trainers, which made it sound like the MAW did that sort of thing a lot. I was met by stunned silence from everyone, except Firelight, who cooed curiously at Velvet. I had been slightly worried that mentioning I had the memory orb of Rainbow Dash might lead to Calamity demanding a recollector. I didn't want my Dashlight friend losing himself in the orb the same way Velvet often did with the Fluttershy orb.
Fair enough.
Zecora,
Fair enough
Zenith
reasoning.
asked, her exotic voice slow and cautious. Do you mean Zecora of Zecora's hut in the Everfree Forest? Whoops. Yeah. Turns out she was a friend of the Ministry Mayor's and chose to... Was it really a good idea to tell Zenith that Zecora had gone undercover to betray the zebras? Zecora was a traitor, Steelhooves growled dangerously. She was selling weapons technology to the zebras. He took a step towards me. She tried to give them the damn gun that would punch through Steel Ranger armor. Oh boy. No. Not really. That was part of her... cover? No. That is not true, Steelhooves insisted adamantly. Fluttershy knew a zebra? Velvet Remedy's voice asked. At least that revelation, thank the goddesses, probably didn't lead down dangerous paths. Little Pip, maybe you ought to be explaining some of these memory orbs y'all been looking at. I groaned. Even staying away from personal memories like Steelhooves memory orbs, or dangerous ones like anything involving Fluttershy and the damn megaspells, this would take a while. Part of me was thankful for the distraction.
I mean, you got
We still had
time.
a few hours to go.
Yeah, see, you got time. Might as well pass it.
Means what? That's what she said. I was still as overwhelmed by that as when I had lived it. I'm still wrapping my mind about Fluttershy hitting on Applejack, Velvet chuckled with amusement. Even if it was for a good cause. Her eyes twinkled as she looked at me. I hung my head. I had some torment coming my way after the barn door slip-up, and I suddenly felt sure Velvet Remedy was drawing a whole new level of inspiration from the Yellow Pegasus. As if to confirm my suspicion, Zenith leaned close and intoned, You are doomed. Steelhooves had remained abnormally silent, even for the taciturn ghoul, ever since I explained the first memory. At first, I thought that the revelation about Zecora had affected him, or perhaps the confirmation of his theories about the Ministry of Awesome. With time, I grew to suspect that neither was the case. Rather, I suspected that while we were distracting ourselves from the conflict that awaited us in Stable 2, Steelhooves was plunged deep within his own turmoil, and was working through it as best as he could before the moment of choice arrived. In a way, he was stronger than we were. Or, at least, than I was. The sound of rapid-fire pops floated up to us on the wind. We were approaching Ponyville. Sweet Apple Acres was still a good bit away, but in the stillness of the wasteland, the night air carried the sounds of battle great distances. Velvet Remedy whimpered. That's a lot of gunfire. Grenade machine guns, Steelhooves noted.
What the fuck?
Several
Grenade machine guns?
I felt myself trembling as my imagination insisted on conjuring images of what might be happening. They wouldn't be using that sort of weaponry inside the stable, would they? And, if not, what were they doing? Suddenly, I pictured all the ponies of Stable 2 marched out into the nearest field of poisoned apple trees, lined up, and fired upon with grenades just for the cruel pleasure of seeing their bodies torn violently apart. I let out a low moan, tears in my eyes. I tried to banish the image. Surely even these monsters wouldn't be so vicious, so cruel. These were Steelhooves' brethren, not raiders, right? Monsters! Velvet Remedy hissed next to me. I think you're right, Calamity agreed, making me cringe. Please no. This can't be what I'm thinking. It just can't. Red Eye's fires are driving a whole mess of things towards Ponyville. Sounds to me like a few have wandered their way up to Sweet Apple Acres. It was the deepest...
I was getting worried there,
was
like genuinely worried. Oh.
That mystical black hour
Thank
when
you,
all is
Calamity.
darkest and you can't sleep. When the weight of all of your sorrows and bad decisions come weighing on you the most heavily, and when the monsters scratch just outside your door. Velvet Remedy got up and started rummaging through the supplies we had stored in the back of the Sky Bandit. All those things we were keeping for trade, or had intended to stash back at Junction R7 but didn't want to burden our saddlebags with. Including every weapon Calamity had been able to strip from the pony Stern had brought with her to attack my friends at the Philadelphia Tower.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
I began to reload my weapons. My choices were limited. Little Macintosh was powerful enough to probably punch through a Steel Ranger's armor if I could hit a weak spot, and I had a single clip of armor-piercing bullets for my sniper rifle. Only my Zebra rifle had sufficient armor-piercing rounds, thanks to both the convoy Calamity I had looted outside of Philadelphia, and some additional ammo he had liberated from Stern's slavers. I floated the Zebra rifle in front of me, looking at it. My rage was beginning to boil again, pushing away the numbing pain. For once tonight, I put up a wall against it, trying to remain at least partially rational, not letting these feelings overwhelm me. Did I really want to use the Zebra rifle against the Steel Rangers? On one hoof, these were my enemies and they deserved what they were going to get, and the rifle was probably the best weapon I had for putting a mess of them down. But the Zebra rifle's enchantment. The bullets would do more than just punch through the armor. I'd seen what happens to a pony who is set on fire inside a suit of armor, and the memory still horrified me. Was I really ready to go spike on these
Yes! Yeah!
What is that you're wearing?
That's saying.
Zenith gasped. Velvet Remedy responded gracefully.
Go spike on them,
We are going into battle against truly dangerous opponents. How foolish would I be not to go in wearing armor? And this is the best armor I possess. Velvet Remedy was, of course, wearing the Zebra Legionnaire armor. Unless, of course, you would wish to wear it, Velvet said kindly. I think you have more of a claim to it than I do.
That's fucking cool.
Zenith considered that a moment, glancing towards Steelhooves. No, Equestria is my home. Ah, horse apples, Calamity muttered to himself, wincing. Then, speaking up. Velvet, Little Pip, I've got a request, and feel free to say no. I know it's asking a lot. I have no right to ask. He paused a moment, then pushed forward. But if we're gearing up for a big fight, then I've got some stuff stashed not far from here that might help. Only had about 15 minutes to our flight, I promise. But that's 15 minutes them Rangers could be killing your kin. I was already feeling each second drop away with blood. 15 minutes more, when we'd already taken so long. I couldn't bear the thought. No, I said firmly. We can't give them a minute more, much less 15. I took a deep breath. But if you think it'll help, then drop us off at the stable door and go. You can meet us back. No, Velvet interrupted. Splitting up is a bad idea. I don't want Calamity wandering the stable alone trying to find us. We all go in together. She was right. My suggestion was a bad one. Calamity, go ahead, she continued. We've taken hours to get here. If 15 minutes more is really going to make that much of a difference, we've already lost. I know you wouldn't even bring this up if you didn't really think it would help. And anything that helps us get through this alive is worth 15 minutes.
Enclave power armor?
Calamity extended
I want Little Pip to have power armor, okay?
Sweet Apple
It's
Acres
a thing
was now
for me.
moving into view. The rolling hills of feeble trees bearing poison fruit. The old barn still standing, surprisingly intact. You won't be able to use the barn until next spring. I suddenly imagined that Applebloom had torn the original barn down while they excavated for Stable 2, then rebuilt it afterwards. When Stable-Tech builds something, they build it to last. I could see sparkling lights in the air, like part of the night sky had descended through the clouds and landed in the middle of the farm. A swarm of evil stars. The pinpoint lights of muzzle flashes danced across the ground all around it. Zenith drew a sharp breath. No! What is it? The zebra's eyes were wide with horror. Star spawn. What the Steel Rangers fought was a horror out of zebra legends. A creature from beyond the moon, unleashed upon the world eons ago as a gift from the stars. The creature was massive and completely invisible, save for the
Are we
surging,
getting
living
Cthulhu?
constellation of lights that seemed to float around.
Is that... I should listen to the description, but when you say star spawn, I think Cthulhu. We are not getting Cthulhu tech. Fuck that.
And inside of it. I brought up my eyes forward.
I realized I cut myself off with half that. I'm like, if we're getting Cthulhu, I'm fucking out. Nah, I'm not dealing with that shit.
Cool. But while the compass burst with lights for the ponies on the ground, most of which were a hostile red, my pit-buck couldn't lock on to the entity they were fighting at all. As far as it was concerned, nothing was there. Gunfire from the embattled Steel Rangers poured into the thin air, and the starry air attacked back, crushing them or sending them flying. Rockets exploded, bathing parts of the creature in fire long enough to get glimpses of its shape. I felt only mildly reassured that its structure seemed at least vaguely pony-like, with a head, body, and 4 legs. An eldritch roar blasted across the cloud-shrouded heavens. It sounded like the cosmos screaming in rage.
That is so cool.
My first instinct was to try and help.
Just anything with cosmos screaming and rage is fucking cool. It's why I love the Moonlight Greatsword in Bloodborne. In Bloodborne, when you get the actual Moonlight Greatsword, it says it glows with the abyssal cosmos. Like, that is so goddamn cool. Oh, I love this thing already.
I wanted to run to their aid. It actually took a moment for me to remember that the ponies down there were our enemies. But not all of them, at least according to my EFS. And wasn't that enough? We have to help them, Steelhooves insisted, voicing my own thoughts. You wanted diplomacy. This will be the first step. You cannot hope to fight a star spawn, Zenith gasped. What manner of fool are you? All you can hope to do is run and hide. Have you met us? Steelhooves asked. And with those words, I knew he had made his choice. Detour abandoned, Calamity winged towards the barn and flew us into the storm. The relentless thunder of weapons fire filled the night, with Steelhooves standing on top of the Sky Bandit, his grenade machine guns tearing at the virtually invisible monster as Calamity circled us around again. The Pegasus Buck was doing his best to get us as close as possible while keeping us outside the star spawn striking range. Not an easy trick, being unable to properly see the creature. The Steel Rangers on the ground had been decimated. There were at least a dozen corpses in crushed and mangled armor. Nowhere near the forces that Steelhooves estimated had been sent to take the stable. I could make out 3 remaining from the dim light of their EFS visors and the brilliant flashes from their weapons. One fired off a pair of missiles. They exploded against the transparent hide of the monster. The star spawn retaliated, an unseen appendage connecting with the armored knight with a sickening crunch. The pony flew through the air towards us. Yow!
I can't believe we're getting fucking Cthulhu shit in this story. What the fuck, K-Cat?
Calamity cried.
I love it. I love Cthulhu shit.
I could see the pony was dead as it arced past us, internal organs pulverized inside gruesomely dented armor. Firelight shot out past us, strafing the creature with balefire, washing part of its back with flames that quickly died away. I focused, trying to wrap the entire entity in a magical field. I had no intention of moving it, but as the magical aura spread around it, the creature became clearly outlined. It was far bigger than I thought. But at least now we could properly dodge the alien behemoth. Velvet Remedy cast her anesthetic spell at the cosmic beasts. Her magic hit it square in the head. The creature stumbled, phased for only a few seconds, then let out another mighty roar. Dang it, she's just too big. We ain't doing more than beast things to her. I told you, Zenith warned, cringing. You can't slay a star spawn. You best be thankful this one is but a baby. A full-grown one would have devoured all of Ponyville without even noticing. That's just a baby? I asked in shock as the monster stepped backwards, colliding through the barn. The last building standing on Sweetapple Acres, the barn which had weathered apocalypse and 200 years of the wasteland, came crashing down.
And that's 30 minutes. That's all for this video. That was a good place to end it, I feel. Like, well, cut the video. Oh, God, fucking Star Spawn and fucking... What the hell, K-Cat? Were you just reading the Cthulhu mythos? Or did you read up on Bloodborne or something? Like, God, what the fuck?